So here we are in the Garden of England. We've travelled down to Kent Police HQ here in Maidstone to bring you another episode of Innovation Insights, where we're meeting Ian Drysdale, who's the Head of Corporate Services here at Kent Police, discussing the power, importance and value of innovation and what that means for Kent Police.
And we constantly in Kent have a reputation for searching for new, creative and innovative ways of conducting our business, whether it be by perhaps refining our services in the support services to make sure that we can reinvest any efficiency savings into our frontline policing, or whether it's arming our officers with new technology to be able to access information far more quickly than hitherto they've ever been able to do so, to ensure that they are best equipped to work in an increasingly demanding role. But we can't stop there, we need to take it further. The people that we're dealing with in some criminal communities also are innovative in their techniques, and we have to find ways of countering those issues and making sure that we stay ahead of any of their ways of doing bad things to people. So,
can you give us some examples of what's on the horizon in terms of new projects that you've got in the pipeline, particularly ones that are changing the ways that you do things currently, optimising, driving efficiencies, primarily technology based? What's the kind of next 12, 18 months look like?
We've got some of our bright colleagues. They're all bright, but these ones have a particular appetite for carrying out research. And what we're trying to do with that team is develop evidence bases for the way that we feel that things are, but we've never been able to prove them in the past. So we're working with Cambridge University to develop those evidence bases. And we've already talked about the evidence-based investigative triage, which will look to manage our demand in a far more sophisticated way going forward.
I'm interested to talk more about collaboration, not amongst one another internally within the force, but actually forces collaborating with one another. And I know that this is a trend nationally, and I know that you have a very close alliance with Essex. Can you talk to us more about what those alliances bring and the future of collaboration, not just here in Kent, but in UK policing generally, and the benefits you'd hope to see from that?
If there's an economic basis for doing it, there is equally an efficiency and effectiveness reason for engaging in collaboration. Whether it be through support mechanisms such as procurement and driving down unit costs because you've got a greater buying potential in the marketplace, or whether it's because we need few specialist resources that are unaffordable in a single force, but actually can be catered for in a wider alliance amongst a number of forces, not necessarily two. By working with other forces, we can limit the overheads, we can come up with the correct resource in the right quantity to be able to meet the demands that we face based against our risk assessments and against our control strategies.
Interesting you talk about blue light collaboration, and it's kind of a topic that's quite hot across the UK right now.
Well, let me start out by saying I've got a deep and lengthy respect for colleagues in the ambulance service. They are under significant pressure. They have an enormous amount of calls to attend to. And every time I speak to a colleague from CCAM, I'm left with an impression of overarching professionalism, pride in what they do, and a real regard for the public that they're serving. However, I also notice that they are busy beyond imagination, and it is difficult for us at the moment to have a wide-scale collaboration with CCAM. They are under a lot of new management recently. We've met with them. They are very positive. They've appointed a manager to look at collaboration with us and the County Fire and Rescue Service. So I'm very ambitious that at some stage we will be able to do more with the ambulance service. We know that in America, in places like New York, the fire and rescue service and the ambulance are very much joined up, and there are various models that do work that are out there to look at as perhaps a blueprint as to how we could do more going forward. At the moment it's challenging, but there is a lot of work that we do together. For instance, we've got medical professionals working within the service, assisting us to cope with the demands of those individuals we come across with mental health needs, some of the most vulnerable in our society. And sometimes the police are not the best people to deal with those individuals, but a medical professional is. So it is in the best interests of the public that the police, the fire service and the ambulance service do as much as they possibly can with that common goal of public safety and making sure that we do the very best that we can for those members of the public that we serve.
And I suppose what will ultimately thread all that together is technology. I mean, joining up those services and sharing data, do you think technology is going to underpin all of that?
I think without it, we won't be able to achieve that level of collaboration that we seek. We are a service that a very large part of it is responding to calls for assistance, and that is the same for all three services. The way in which we respond to those calls for assistance is similar. We have CADs and logs, and we make sure that we prioritise against certain criteria such as the Thrive model, which is around threat, risk and harm. And the ambulance service and the fire and rescue service do exactly the same. So many of the operating practices are very similar, but that is all aided by technology. And without that technology, then I don't think any of those collaborations is going to be easy. We need platforms that are similar, if not the same, whether it be in support functions or operational functions.
What would be your advice in terms of your sort of key learnings from Kent around innovation? If you were to kind of give some takeaways to people watching this that are senior colleagues around the UK.
So I think as leaders of the service, we sometimes have to question the experts as to why we can't or why we should, and ask them to come up with the solutions. And in my experience, they feel challenged by that particular approach, and they respond magnificently well, as they have done in Kent for a number of years. I think also, don't stop having good ideas, and Idea Drop allows you to record those ideas, and however small or unachievable they may seem, if we don't have those ideas, then we will stop, and we can't stop. We need to keep going around ideas, around transformation. And what we're doing today will be no good in 10 years' time, but the only people that are going to get us there are the people that are working for us, and we need to start to generate a great debate around the use of technology.
Ian, thank you very much for joining us on Innovation Insights.
You're very welcome, thank you.